If you're a vegan eating pretty healthy, struggling to lose body fat, you might be wondering what you're doing wrong. And it's usually not eating cleaner, cutting out carbs, trying to track every single calorie. As a vegan dietitian, these are the most common mistakes that I see over and over and over again. I'm Carol, I'm a vegan weight loss dietitian specializing in fat loss. I help women over 35 lose body fat without restricting their favorite foods or obsessively tracking every single calorie. Number one mistake that I see super common is your meals aren't as protein dense as you may think. So when it comes to chickpeas and lentils, these are amazing. They're very nutritious. I wouldn't think beans and lentils as a protein source. I would think them as a high fiber carb source. So definitely keep eating them. They're very nutritious, but just not thinking them as a protein source. So I just want to make a comment regarding beans. The exceptions would be soybeans and lupini beans. I would think of those as a protein source, but those are the only beans that their composition is made up a little bit different than like chickpeas or black beans or lentils. Next, when it comes to peanut butter, I see this all the time, having a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, thinking this is going to be an amazing meal or lunch. It's not. It's only offered for 2 tablespoons. It's only offering 7 grams of protein, and then you're adding in all these calories and fat. So I would think of this as more of a fat source. The same thing goes with the nuts. This happens to be pecans, walnuts, any of these. Also, they're calorically dense. I wouldn't think of them as a protein source. Yes, they do have protein, but these shouldn't be your main protein sources. The seeds, chia seeds is another one that I see. People think this as a protein source. So I would continue adding it to your oatmeal, adding it to smoothies, adding it to salads. However, just understand, per 2 tablespoons, you're only getting roughly anywhere between 4 and 5 grams of protein. So I would continue using seeds, but just think of them as a fat source, because that's what they're primarily providing, is a fat source. Yes, a little bit of protein and a little bit of fiber. Instead, I would want you building your meals around protein sources, like high protein tofu or extra firm tofu or fava tofu or seitan that you can make or buy, or things like textured vegetable protein or edamame puffs or pea protein crisps or soy curls or edamame. These items that I just mentioned are primarily a protein source. Of course, I would still want you adding lentils, adding beans, adding like nut butters, adding the seeds, adding the nuts. These provide a lot of nutrition, but we're just not gonna think of them as our primary protein source if the goal is fat loss. The second mistake that I see is assuming that because the food is healthy, that the amount doesn't matter. And I'm definitely not saying that you need to weigh and measure out every single food item that you are eating. I don't want you spending the rest of your life measuring how much peanut butter or avocado that you are having. But there's also this idea in vegan space, something is whole foods plant-based, you can just eat unlimited amounts of it. That's just not how it works. Foods like nuts and seeds and nut butters are extremely nutritious and I eat them, but also calorically dense. So the amount that you're eating, the portion size, can make a huge difference to support the goals that you have. So instead of obsessing over calories, I teach women what a balanced plate looks like and appropriate portion sizes for them to support their goals. Most of the time, what I would be looking for is half of the plate is going to be a non-starchy vegetable, you guys can see. And then a quarter of the plate is going to be ideally a carb that's high fiber. And then the other quarter of the plate is going to be a protein source. Like this happens to be tofu. I'm going to turn the camera so you guys can see this a little better, what I'm trying to show you. Most of the time what I'm looking for is half of your plate is going to be a non-starchy vegetable. This happens to be red cabbage. A quarter of the plate is going to be a carb, ideally a high fiber. This happens to be brown rice. And then the other quarter of the plate is going to be a protein-rich food. This happens to be air-fried tofu. You don't have to track every single calorie if you're trying to lose body fat. You can't completely ignore portion sizes or what a balanced plate is. And that's exactly what I teach my clients. Another mistake that I see is you're making healthy eating way more complicated than it needs to be. We have 100 recipes on Instagram. Buy 1 million ingredients. Stuff that you're gonna meal prep every single Sunday, and then by the time Wednesday rolls around, you're over it. The majority of my meals are really simple. I don't necessarily love cooking, but I like yummy food. I start with the protein, I add some sort of volume, meaning a non-starchy vegetable or a fruit source, and then I add a high fiber carb, more often than not, and a fat source or some sort of flavor. That literally could be tofu that I air fried. I'm adding some vegetables like seasonal vegetables, some sort of grain, and then a sauce that I make. Or it's gonna be homemade seitan, roasted vegetables, maybe it's cauli gnocchi from Trader Joe's, and some sort of sauce. sauce. Or it's gonna be TVP, it's gonna be lentil marinara with some spinach thrown in there. That's a meal. You don't need a recipe every single day. In fact, having a handful of simple recipes that you really enjoy so you can make these on repeat makes staying consistent so much easier. Because consistency beats perfection every single time. The biggest takeaway I want you to walk away from this video: your fat loss plan has to work in your actual life. I see women eating perfectly Monday through Thursday, and then here comes Friday, they go out to dinner, maybe have a couple of drinks, the weekend gets busy, and then suddenly all structure goes out the window. Monday rolls around and they feel like, I have to get back on track. You don't need to keep getting back on track. You need a way of eating that still works when you go out to a restaurant, when you're traveling, when you're tired and you don't feel like cooking. One meal out isn't the problem, an imperfect meal isn't the problem. What matters is what you're consistently doing over time. Here's what I want you to do this week. Don't overhaul your entire diet. Look at your 3 main meals and ask yourself these 4 questions. What's my protein? What's my volume? What's my carb? Is it high fiber? And do the portions actually align with my goals? Start there. You may realize that you don't have to eat completely different. You just need a few small tweaks to the meals you are currently eating. And if your biggest struggle is trying to figure out like, what the heck am I supposed to make for dinner? Download my free meal plan. These meals are simple, protein and fiber forward. Those nights when you're busy and don't want to make complicated recipes. I'll put the link down below so you can grab it. If you want more realistic fat loss strategies without obsessively tracking everything you eat, make sure to subscribe. That's exactly what we talk about here.